Get out! My mother-in-law, Catherine's harsh voice pierced the air. When my husband was transferred abroad, she kicked me and my daughter out of the house. With no place to go, I ended up at the park, holding my 2-year-old daughter, feeling lost and unsure of what to do next. Suddenly, police officers surrounded us. "Please come with us," they said. Soaked in the rain and shivering from the cold, I followed them to the police station, where I found an unexpected person waiting for me. "I'm Emma, turning 35 this year. I met my husband Bob at work, and after a year of dating, we got married. I quit my job when we tied the knot, and 2 years ago, our daughter Lily was born. Right now, we'd all live together with my mother-in-law, Catherine. We used to rent, but after Catherine's husband passed and her niece started acting up, we decided to buy a new apartment and live together. We thought about getting a house, but with Catherine's knee issues, we figured it'd be smarter to live where it's easy to get around. Buying an apartment was cheaper and had an elevator, which was a big help. Catherine liked the idea too, so we put money down and got a 35-year loan. Bob's job doesn't move us around much since we bought the place, but he still travels for work about once a week. With a 2-year-old, his trips stress me out. At first, Catherine pitched in with childcare, but now she's not much help. She leaves dishes dirty and utensils unwashed, which piles up extra work for me. When I ask her to help, she promises to do better but doesn't follow through. Oddly enough, she cleans up when Bob's around, and I just noticed that recently. At first, I didn't think much of it when Catherine occasionally rinsed the dishes, but now I see things differently. I suspect she's deliberately making things difficult for me, like when she offers to pick up things from the store, and then conveniently mentions afterward that she actually needed something. This happens a lot. I used to think Catherine's knee problems made moving hard for her, so I wanted to help out as much as possible. But now, my eagerness to assist is wearing thin. I considered talking to Bob about it, but he's already stressed from work, and I didn't want to add to his worries. Catherine's behavior started not long after we moved in together, and it's been going on for years. When I mentioned it to a friend, she said, "Sounds like she's bullying you. Why not talk to Bob? He might be able to help." But if I bring it up with Bob, Catherine, who doesn't have any other family, might end up in a care facility. So I thought maybe it's best to just tough it out. However, something happened one day that made me reconsider. That day, I had arranged to drop off Lily at my parents' house. They'd always loved having her over and often suggested I stay the night too. But I always worried about leaving Catherine alone. After a quick chat with my parents, I headed back to our apartment where Catherine was waiting. But when I got there, I realized I had forgotten the keys. At first, I panicked a bit, but then I remembered Catherine was home. I tried buzzing her through the intercom, but there was no answer. I waited outside, thinking she might have gone out, but she didn't return. As it got darker, I decided to follow another resident into the building. I was sure Catherine wouldn't be out so late, but when I buzzed our apartment again, there was still no response. I waited a while longer, but still nothing. Finally, I heard a faint sound from inside, confirming Catherine was home. I kept buzzing the intercom, but she wouldn't answer. Feeling defeated, I booked a room at a nearby motel for the night, planning to sort things out when Bob got back from his trip. I got locked out. I explained to Bob when he asked what happened. He was understandably upset, but Catherine just brushed it off, blaming her hearing and joking about getting old. Relieved to be back inside, I grabbed my keys and went to pick up Lily from my parents' house. They offered their support, saying I could always come back if things got too tough. Their comforting words brought tears to my eyes, but I quickly composed myself before heading home with Lily. For a while, things seemed okay with Catherine. Then, unexpectedly, Bob's international transfer was confirmed. A permanent move, not just a business trip. We just bought a place, and now this international assignment. What should we do? Bob asked me. I hesitated, considering the stress it might bring to Lily, but ultimately decided it was best for us to stay in the U.S. Soon after, Bob had to leave for Europe. Although he was concerned, work kept him occupied, leaving me, Lily, and Catherine to navigate life together. Living with Catherine took a turn for the worse once Bob left for Europe, just as I expected. Her attitude shifted drastically. On a stormy day, when it was unsafe to go outside, Catherine blindsided me with a shocking request. "Now that Bob's away, wouldn't it be best if you and Lily found somewhere else to live?" she said bluntly. "Excuse me? What are you saying?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "I'd prefer to have the place to myself. I can't relax with strangers around. So if you could leave as soon as possible, that would be great," she replied, showing no remorse. I was stunned by Catherine's nerve. Despite not being blood-related, I had always treated her like family, doing my best to make our living situation comfortable. But to her, it seemed we were just unwanted guests. As I contemplated packing up and returning to my parents' house, Catherine's next words cut deep. "Why are you still here? Just leave already," she demanded, showing no mercy. Before I knew it, Lily and I were standing outside our own home, dressed only for indoors, as Catherine slammed the door shut behind us. No matter how hard I knocked, she refused to open it. Lost and stranded, I took Lily to a nearby park for shelter from the pouring rain. Without my wallet or phone, which were inside the house, I felt utterly helpless, unsure of our next move. Exhausted and freezing, I tried to keep us warm as we huddled together. With nightfall approaching and the cold setting in, I feared we might fall ill. Desperate for help, I considered the long walk to my parents' house, despite the distance. As I weighed our options, I noticed two faint lights in the distance. Squinting through the rain, I realized they were police officers approaching. Before I could decide what to do, one of them called out to me. "Are you Emma? And is this little one Lily?" the officer asked, catching me off guard with his knowledge of our names. I nodded weakly, confirming our identities. "Please come with us to the station," the officer requested, and I couldn't help but wonder why they were taking us there. Lily and I obediently got into the patrol car, grateful for the large towels the officers provided to shield us from the cold and rain. As we shivered in the backseat, I couldn't shake off my curiosity. "How did you know where to find us?" I asked, hoping for some answers. "We'll explain everything once we're back at the station," they assured me. Exhausted, I soon drifted off to sleep, only to awaken later to find ourselves at the police station. Following the officers inside, I was taken aback to see Catherine and my uncle waiting for us. "Uncle, what are you doing here?" I asked in surprise. "Bob contacted me. He suspected you might be having trouble with his mom, especially since he's overseas," my uncle explained, shedding some light on the situation. "He wanted me to keep an eye on things for him," my uncle explained. Apparently, Bob had discussed this issue with him before, expressing his concern about not being able to be there himself while he was overseas. My uncle had spotted us in the rain earlier that day and had considered taking us in himself. However, he found Catherine's actions extreme, so he decided to report it to the police. That's why the officers knew where to find us and came to our rescue. Catherine had also been summoned to the police station, where she sat glaring at me, seemingly unaware of the reason for her presence. "Why do I have to be here? My knee is acting up, you know. If Bob were here, none of this would be happening," Catherine argued. Little did she know that this entire situation had unfolded because of Bob reaching out to my uncle for help. During discussions with the police, it became evident that the situation might have legal implications. As a result, I was advised to consider hiring an attorney to navigate the complexities ahead. An attorney? That's an overreaction. I just locked the door, that's all. I didn't do anything else, Catherine protested. "Do you even realize what you've done? You threw Emma and a little child out in torrential rain. That's not something forgivable," my uncle defended us, emphasizing the severity of Catherine's actions and asserting my rightful ownership of the house. "That's impossible. Bob is the head of the household. He's the rightful owner. Now that he's not here, it should be mine," Catherine insisted, misunderstanding the ownership status. In truth, my uncle, who works in real estate, had facilitated a great deal on a condo for us, and Bob had recommended putting it under my name. Following my uncle's guidance, I decided to seek legal advice. The lawyer explained that evicting Catherine would be challenging and suggested considering placement in a care facility. I immediately called Bob to update him on the situation. He hadn't anticipated the severity of the issue and expressed his desire to return from Japan to address it properly, considering placing Catherine in a facility. Unaware of the unfolding developments, Catherine, despite being at the police station, nonchalantly snacked on crackers. Unable to return home with Catherine, I sought refuge at my parents' house until Bob's return. With a week before his arrival, I had time to reflect on our options. If Bob wouldn't support me, then divorce seemed the only option, I lamented, regretting my delay in seeking advice. A week later, Bob returned from Europe, and I moved back home from my parents' place. However, his stay was brief as he needed to go back to Europe soon. With limited time in Japan, we had to discuss our next steps. I heard some things from Emma's uncle. Is all of that true? Bob inquired as soon as we were together. Catherine adamantly denied any wrongdoing, insisting it was all lies and accusing me of plotting against her. Surprisingly, Bob seemed inclined to consider Catherine's perspective. Do you have any evidence to prove Emma's plotting something? Bob asked, seeking clarity. Evidence? Of course not. Emma, do you have any evidence? I admitted I hadn't been able to keep track of things due to my busy work schedule. Uncertain of whom to believe, I handed Bob a voice recorder I had with me. What's this? Bob questioned as I handed it to him. I explained that it contained recordings of Catherine's harsh words and her eviction of me from the house. As Bob listened to the recordings, he heard Catherine's disparaging remarks about me, questioning why he even married me. Catherine quickly began to defend herself upon hearing the playback. This is taken out of context. Everyone has their moments, right? I was just frustrated at that time. But it was just this once. Catherine attempted to downplay her actions, but the voice recorder played a relentless stream of verbal abuse, revealing countless instances of mistreatment, some not even captured on the device. Bob's hand trembled with tension and anger as he held the recorder, while Catherine appeared guilt-ridden. Mom, what is this about? Bob demanded an explanation, but Catherine remained silent. If you won't answer, then I can only assume this is all true. If so, I need to prioritize Emma and Lily's safety. You understand that, right? Bob's anger was palpable, a side of him I had never seen before. Catherine, seemingly realizing the severity of the situation, cowered in fear, unable to respond. In the ensuing discussions before Bob's return to Europe, I made it clear that I could no longer live with Catherine, especially with Lily in the picture. Bob seemed to agree, leaning towards the idea of placing Catherine in a care facility. However, Catherine vehemently opposed the suggestion, complicating matters further. Regardless, I decided to sell the house, so you can't stay here anymore. If you don't want to go to the facility, you'll need to find another place, Bob announced firmly. How dare you decide this on your own? I won't allow you to sell the house. Catherine protested vehemently, but the decision was made. Lily and I had already chosen to move to Europe, as Bob regretted not being more present for his family and was determined to make amends moving forward. Although I had reservations about moving abroad, knowing that Bob would be with us provided some comfort. Plus, I thought it would be beneficial for Lily, who was only 2, to immerse herself in a new environment and practice her communication skills in Europe. Therefore, selling the condo, which still had a mortgage, was the only viable option. Leaving it as it was would burden Catherine with the mortgage payments, which she couldn't afford on her fixed income. Considering her future prospects, it was essential for someone to be available to support her. Despite our best efforts, Catherine refused to move into a care facility voluntarily, so we had no choice but to arrange for her admission forcibly. I'm sorry, but I have to head back to Europe. Could you take care of any necessary procedures here? Bob asked before departing. With assistance from friends and family, I managed to complete the process of admitting Catherine into the facility. The staff there kept me informed about her condition, but it seemed she was struggling. While it would be understandable if she were simply feeling down, she was reportedly making things difficult for the staff and other residents. Before leaving for Europe, I visited Catherine to check on her well-being. However, she lashed out at me, accusing me of imprisoning her in the facility. She also vented her frustrations to the staff, criticizing the food, accommodations, and other residents. Despite apologizing to the staff for her behavior, they reassured me, saying they were accustomed to handling such situations. Despite the challenges and the mistreatment I had endured from Catherine during our time living together, I couldn't help but feel anxious as I embarked on my journey to Europe. Upon arriving in Paris, Bob greeted me at the airport, and we made our way to the apartment we had rented. While they say rents in Paris are steep compared to Texas, Bob's company provides a housing allowance, which allowed us to find a spacious and affordable place. Our neighbors in the building have been incredibly welcoming, despite my limited fluency in French. Just yesterday, one neighbor shared some wine and cheese with me, and in return, I offered them some homemade mac and cheese. In the meantime, I'm gradually picking up French alongside my daughter Lily, recognizing the limitations of self-study. I've also enrolled in a language school, where I've met other Americans new to France and formed some great friendships. Back in the States, my worries about Catherine often overshadowed my enjoyment of outings with friends. But here in Paris, I can savor leisurely lunches and fully embrace the city's charm. My main concern now is Lily, who is still too young for kindergarten. Typically, children here start kindergarten at 5, so I'm hopeful she'll pick up enough French by then. Thankfully, Lily seems to be adapting quickly. As Lily grows older and approaches preschool age, I'm considering re-entering the workforce. While Bob supports me staying at home, living in Paris has sparked a desire for new opportunities. Witnessing the ambition and confidence of people here has inspired me. I've even befriended a waitress at a nearby cafe who hinted at a potential job opportunity there. The cafe is popular among both Americans and locals learning English, presenting a promising avenue for me. Despite the challenges ahead, our move to France has strengthened the bond between Bob and me. I feel more empowered to express my feelings, and I'm confident that we'll face whatever comes our way as a family. Right now, I've never felt happier in my life.
Please make sure to pay back the loan, okay? While I was at work, I got a sudden email. When I quickly called Greg, he calmly said, "Sorry, but I've fallen for someone else. I'm starting a new life with her." And he wanted to take the fancy car we recently bought with a loan in my name. Even though I tried to stop him, my husband ignored me, hung up suddenly, and then I couldn't reach him. In the end, Greg left with his new partner, and now I have a big debt. As a mom to our 10-year-old son, I never thought something so unfair would happen. I feel really lost. Feeling lost and not knowing what to do. I'm 35 years old and my name is Hannah. My husband Greg is the same age, and we have a family of 3, including our 10-year-old son Ryan. Ryan is really smart, even from a young age, reading things on the computer and asking for my thoughts on them. Even though the topics are confusing, I'm always amazed by his intelligence. Unlike Ryan, Greg hasn't had a steady job. I work full-time and worry about our future. Recently though, Greg held the same job for 3 years and earned a stable income. Around that time, he talked about making memories as a family, and we decided to buy a $35,000 camper van. Since Greg couldn't get the loan in his name, I ended up taking it. On the day the camper van was supposed to arrive, I got an unexpected email from Greg, saying, "I'll take the delivered camper van gracefully. Since the loan is in your name, you'll handle the repayments." I called my husband right away, not understanding what the email meant. "What's that email about?" while I was at work. "Well, I've fallen in love with another woman and decided to date her." "What? What are you talking about?" I thought it would be just a short thing, but it got serious. So I'm thinking of starting a new life with her. Bye. Remember those divorce papers I prepared after our fight? "I'll file them," he said, and then abruptly ended the call. This was the first time I realized Greg betrayed me, and it was really shocking. After that, Greg didn't answer my calls no matter how many times I tried. I wondered, can something like this really happen? When I came home from work and looked in the drawer where the divorce papers should be, they were already gone. So I was stuck with a big debt from a $35,000 car loan. Despite trying to reach Greg through emails and calls, he never replied. Ryan noticed something was off with me and came to check on me after dinner. "Mom, what's wrong? You haven't been eating much lately. Are you okay?" Yeah, maybe I'm just tired." When people lie, they look up to the right. Lying is bad. I've noticed Dad hasn't been home for 3 days, right? Surprised by Ryan's keen words, I took a deep breath and decided to tell him everything since I couldn't hide the truth anymore. "I get it. Dad tends to do things like that. Are you feeling sad?" "No, I kind of saw it coming with how things were." Ryan, like he could predict the future, seemed not bothered by our parents' divorce, but deep down, I knew he must be sad. While silently apologizing to Ryan in my thoughts, I worked really hard, trying not to think about the bad stuff. However, my body was honest and my health got worse over time. There was a training session at work that day, but I couldn't stand up and ended up sitting down. "Sorry, I can't stand up right now. I need to take a break." I heard my colleagues worried about me, but I couldn't respond and just collapsed. When I woke up, I was in a hospital room. The doctor said I needed more tests, so they kept me in the hospital. I thought, I feel so weak. It's just supposed to be stress. Tears started flowing when I looked at the IV in my arm and the hospital room ceiling. At that moment, Ryan, usually calm, rushed in looking really worried. I quickly wiped away my tears. "Mom, what happened? Is it serious? You're not going to die, right?" No, I wouldn't leave you alone." "Phew, that's good. The school called, saying you were taken to the hospital." I was so shocked. Ryan is usually mature, but he's still just 10. I promised myself to get better for him, but my health was worse than I thought, and the doctor said I had a serious illness. The doctor said, "You should have surgery as soon as possible. Please decide quickly." So I had the surgery. When I left the hospital, it had been a month since Greg left. When I got home and checked the mailbox, there was a letter asking for the car loan payment. I thought the money should have been taken from my account automatically. What happened? Panicking, I looked at my cash card balance, which was supposed to be $20,000, but it was only $33.90 now. I thought Greg must have done this. I want to ask him to give the money back, but I can't reach him. What should I do? I can't sell the camper van since I don't have it. After Greg left, everything started going wrong, and my mood got even worse. Seeing me upset about all these problems, Ryan touched my forehead. "You look pale. Are you feeling sick again? You don't have a fever, though." "Physically, I'm okay, but your dad not only took the car, but also all our saved money. I can't work yet because of my health, and now we have no money. I don't know what to do." "I get it. Then I'll deliver newspapers, and I'll check the internet for any jobs I can do." Feeling encouraged by my 10-year-old son, I told myself it's not the time to be sad. "Sorry for making you worry. I can't be weak. I'll change my thinking and try to do whatever I can." Smiling at him, Ryan smiled back and then said something surprising. "Let's figure out how to get the car back from Dad." "How can we do that?" "The camper van is in your name, right?" "Yes. But so what?" "Then let's check on my phone." A month ago, when we went hiking as a family, surprisingly, Ryan, who is usually very reliable, got lost. At that time, we bought a kid's cell phone on Ryan's suggestion and installed a GPS app on it, which both Greg and I could use. With this app, I can see where Dad is in real time, and he's been moving around a lot. "Oh really? But what if we find him, and he just gives a vague answer and runs away again?" As I thought about this, Ryan smiled and made an interesting suggestion. "Don't worry, I've already taken precautions." "What? What did you just say?" To my surprise, Ryan had done something amazing on his own while I was in the hospital. I thought, I can't believe such a smart child came from me. Understanding Ryan's words, I was just amazed. He even found out about Greg's girlfriend. "Okay, let's show Dad, who betrayed us, a lesson." "Sure, let's start the plan now." Together, my son and I got ready for that moment. I thought, with Ryan beside me, I can handle anything. Bring it on, anywhere, anytime. Then 3 days later, my phone rang. "It's me. Please, I need your help." Oh, who might this be? Don't act like you don't know, it's your husband, obviously. I'm being questioned by the police about you. They might ask me to come to the police station. Help me out. Oh really? Just wait a moment then. I quickly went with my son to where Greg was, and to my surprise, it was a forest park near our house where camping was allowed. Greg was being questioned by the police in front of his car, looking confused. Feeling sorry for him, I sighed and talked to the police. We need to talk as a couple, and I asked them to come back for a while. Greg looked uncomfortable with people watching, so he hurried Ryan and me into the car. Inside, Greg's girlfriend was sitting, glaring at us, but that didn't matter anymore. Sorry about that. Thanks for coming, but why did the police show up at my place? I don't get it. That's because I reported the missing camper van. What? Why would you do that? It's obvious, right? My car was stolen. Greg, thinking that actions between spouses can't be criminal, was saying confusing things, but the world isn't that simple. You filed for divorce, remember? Forgot. So we are strangers now, and you're driving a stranger's car without permission. That's a crime. Ryan figured all this out, as sharp as ever, that kid. But I didn't steal the car. I just borrowed it for a bit. Oh really? Well, I need my car now, so can you get it back? That would be really helpful. I reached out my hand to get the keys from Greg, and he reluctantly handed them over after checking it was returned. Ryan quietly spoke up. Hey, why did you leave your family and choose to be with this woman? Caught off guard by his son's unexpected question, Greg was confused and awkwardly scratched his head. Seeing this, Greg's girlfriend chuckled smugly and started talking. It's because I'm more attractive than your mom. Look at me, you can see it, right? He fell for me and decided to leave his family. Quiet. I didn't ask you, old lady. Dad, you answer. Mandy quieted down when Ryan spoke firmly, but Greg stayed silent. If you can't explain, that's okay. I'll just call the police back and have them arrest you. Wait, hang on. Okay, I'll talk. It turns out Mandy joined Greg's company 3 months ago. They liked each other and got together at the welcome party for new employees. Later, they found out Mandy was pregnant, and Greg decided to start a new life with her, leaving us behind. And why did you take the camper van? I quit my job and was thinking of selling the car for money, but it looks like you were using it a lot, right? I thought it would be a waste to sell it right away, so we planned to go on a trip. Wait, how do you know all this? Remember when Ryan got lost? After that, as a precaution, we bought him a kid's cell phone and installed a GPS app. Did you forget? We put it on your phone too, so I knew where you were all this time. By the way, I later found out from Ryan that he pretended to get lost during our family hike because he wanted a cell phone. I was amazed at Ryan's ability to think and act so smartly. I thought something was wrong with Dad, so I made this plan to keep an eye on him. You're really a scary kid. I never want to become an adult like you, Dad, who betrays important people without thinking. Greg, faced with the tough truth Ryan told, couldn't say anything back. On the other hand, seeing Ryan, just 10 years old but able to think and speak strongly, gave me a sense of strength as a mom. I felt like I couldn't lose, especially in making things right. Also, give back the $20,000 you took from my account now. That was our shared money as a couple. You should return it. No, it's not. That money was what I saved bit by bit since I was single. You often quit your jobs, so we didn't save much money together, did we? I was shocked to hear that Greg and his girlfriend wasted the $20,000. It was the moment I felt glad about getting a divorce. So that's how it is. But if you took the car and my money without permission, that's a serious crime. I just sent the police away, so it's not their business anymore, right? I've only said we would talk. I'm not taking back the complaint. I need to report the theft of my money. Mom, should I call the police now? I can do it with just one button on my phone. Mandy, Greg's girlfriend, had been watching our conversation but quickly tried to leave the camper van. At that moment, she let out a scream that echoed around. The reason was that outside the car door, Mandy's parents were standing there, their faces red with anger about to explode. Startled, she stepped back as her parents yelled at her. "Ah, I'm sorry. Don't be so mad. But why are your parents here, Mom and Dad? I called them before." "What? Why?" The truth is, when I was in the hospital, Ryan went to Greg's office and sadly told them, "My dad left the house with a woman we don't know, and my mom collapsed. Seeing Ryan so upset, the people at Greg's office suspected Mandy, who left the company with Greg, and gave Ryan her parents' address. Greg and Mandy were really friendly at the office, and there were pictures of them together at the welcome party for new employees, looking like a couple. After learning from the office people that you commuted from your parents' house, I went there with your photo. Your parents came out when I visited, and then I told them everything that had happened. So today, I called Mandy's parents and asked them to wait nearby for a while. How could you do this to me? The worst. I don't want to hear that from you. That's my line. By the way, your stomach seems quite big. When is the baby due? In 3 months. What? Hold on. That doesn't match up with when you met my husband. You two only met 3 months ago, right? What's happening? It's not time for the baby to be born yet. Greg, hearing this for the first time, stared at Mandy, eyes wide. Wait, what does that mean? Are you stupid? Don't you get it? It takes about 9 months from getting pregnant to having a baby, which means the child she's carrying isn't yours. You're so foolish. What do you mean, Mandy? Have you been lying to me? I almost got away with it. Can't help it now that I'm caught. You're so gullible. You can't see through lies at all. Really a fool? Don't mock me. My whole life is ruined because of you. What were you thinking? Greg and Mandy started arguing, but nobody stopped them, letting them work it out. Meanwhile, we called the police again to explain the situation. As it started to get dark, the forest park was lit up by the red lights of the police cars. No, really, I messed up. I was truly wrong. I'm sorry. I'll work hard and never cheat again, so please just don't arrest me, Dad. People don't change that easily, especially lazy people like you. Exactly, Ryan's right. I can't trust you at all. Think about what you did and face the consequences at the police station. If I get arrested, I won't be able to pay back the money. Is that okay with you? I don't mind. Pay me back after you've made up for your mistakes. Take your time, don't worry. I've already found you a job. Let's see, there's Ryan's child support, plus the $20,000 you stole from me. I'm not sure how much it will all add up to, but you'll work and pay it all back. I had one last thing to say to Mandy, the girlfriend. You might think you're just watching, but don't forget you're part of Greg's theft. Be ready for that. When I said that Mandy would have to pay if Greg couldn't return the stolen money, she got scared. Mandy asked her parents for help, but they refused, saying, "We disown a daughter who causes trouble for others." So Greg and Mandy got taken away in a police car because of what they did. Thanks to Ryan's smart plan, we were able to make sure Greg and Mandy faced consequences. Even though they were let go from jail soon after, they had to pay me a lot of money. I, with the help of a lawyer, asked for $20,000 as compensation. Also, I made Greg agree to pay $500 every month for Ryan's support. I helped Greg find a job in a factory connected to the company where I work. The money he owes me, along with other charges, will be taken from his salary and put into my account. I also sold the camper van and got rid of the car loan. Since then, I've become much healthier and am doing well at my job. Ryan has been helping a lot with chores and tasks around the house. I want to keep going strong so that Ryan can follow